The stories of word origins can sometimes seem as improbable as the huge marble columns that are up here in the mountains in Marble, Colorado. I have a video about how language changes in irregular ways so that word origins, etymologies, are not arbitrary things. They actually have some scientific basis, some regular basis. But to kind of demonstrate that, Lauren and I had the idea of doing a kind of question show, quiz show about whether etymologies are real or not. So buckle up with friends or family or yourself, and I'll give you a couple. Some are going to be real and some are going to be made up by me. All right, first one. Car and horse are from the same word. That's right. Ker is an Indo-European root that has something to do with vehicles and transport. So K's regularly become H's in Germanic languages like English. The native English word derived from this root is horse, horse being the animal regarded as a means of transportation, rather than the basic Indo-European word that becomes like Latin equus, or in fact Old English eo, which you see in the names of J.R.R. Tolkien characters like Eomer or Eowyn. But in branches where that K does not become an H, where the K remains a K, like in Celtic, you get a Gaulish word, something like carus, which is borrowed into Latin as carus, meaning a wagon, and that is borrowed into English. All right, so it's taken a direct path into English, going through all the native changes like the K to H, but then it also gets borrowed back without those changes, with the C, and that is what ultimately will become English car. So car and horse, ultimately from the same word. True or false? All right, well, we continue to wander around Marble, and we came across this big marble, what looks like a wheel, right? It's got a big hole in the middle of it, so maybe that's for an axle, or maybe that's what the cross-section of a big marble column looks like. I don't know. But got us thinking, did you know that chakra from Sanskrit, cycle from Greek kuklos, and English wheel come from the same word? And what's interesting about that is that, of course, this reflects how, can't get into the details here, but some cuz become chuz in Sanskrit, but cuz routinely become huz in Germanic languages like English. This is, in fact, very regular alternation. And the Indo-European root that we can reconstruct from Germanic and Greek and Sanskrit and the other branches is los, the turn thing. So it actually looks like a fairly new word in Proto-Indo-European, but it's there in Proto-Indo-European, right? This means that before the ancestor of Greek went to Greece and Sanskrit went to India and the Germanic languages went to Northern Europe, that the wheel was already a known technology, right? But a kind of new one. So I think that that's got a lot of interesting implications for language and human history. True or false? All right, here's another etymology, true or false, to guess. Otter, like the cute little weasel-like animal that lives in the river, right? Like the Crystal River down here. And Hydra, the seven-headed dragon of Greek myth, that's the same word. So there is an Indo-European root, something like wodor, that is water in the typically apparently inanimate sense. So there's two Indo-European roots for water. There's wodor, inanimate, and then there's the one that becomes like Latin aqua, Gothic aqua, Old Norse all. That's the animate word. So probably the distinction is between like a river, which is like the aqua word, and then something like a lake or a sea, which is the water word. Now, typically, descendant languages choose one or the other, so that Latin, for example, has chosen the aqua word, English with water, or Greek with hudor, which is the source of a lot of English borrowings, like that start with hydro, right? Hydroelectric, water electric. Take the water word. But there is an Indo-European root for an animal that lives in water that becomes English otter, Old Norse otter, and also becomes Greek hydra, 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 something like that in ancient Greek. It seems improbable, but it's the same word. It just means water-dwelling animal. True or false? Here's one more. Weird and Urður, the Norse goddess of fate, the Norn, Chief Norn, that's the same word. Now, the main thing that makes these look different is that in Old Norse, a W or V is dropped before a U or an O, so that these both go back to something like worthies, where the I in the ending has mutated the vowel in English, but not in Old Norse, because it's not a situation in which I's mutate preceding stressed vowels in Old Norse. The reason the English word comes to mean strange rather than fate is that, as I understand it, Shakespeare calls those three witches in Macbeth the weird sisters, meaning the fate sisters, fateful sisters, and later audiences interpret that as like, oh, they're the odd sisters, the strange sisters. True or false? All right, here's another one. When we talk about a murder of crows, this is in fact not a reference to crows as murderous or evil birds or something like that. In fact, this is a borrowing from Old Irish, where the goddess of war, the Morin, I may not be saying that exactly right, my Old Irish pronunciation has never been spotless, neither is my modern Irish pronunciation, but the Morin travels with a troop of crows or ravens, her dare. So the Morin dare is in fact a troop of ravens or crows, and this term is borrowed into English with that meaning by people who weren't aware of the original mythic significance of the name. True or false? All right, here's your next one to guess, real or fake. Yoga is ultimately the same word as English yoke, Y-O-K-E, like what you put on an ox, or in Sanskrit, what you put on an uksh. This is an Indo-European root, something like yeg, that is actually shared widely across the Indo-European language family. For example, we see it in the yug in Latin words borrowed in English like conjugate, right? Put together under the same yoke, or subjugate, put under the yoke. But in yoga, as I understand it, you were putting your body under a yoke. You're putting it under discipline and direction from your will, and that's the origin of that name. So a farm implement that people don't think about very much anymore is ultimately the same word as something that people practice in cities all over the world now. True or false? The exact affiliations of the Etruscan language are not known. In fact, scholars aren't fully aware of how to read it. It's probably not Indo-European, but you can find scholars who dissent from that view. At any rate, it had a huge influence on the Latin language and other Italic languages, and oddly enough, they had a little bit of influence on it. So we know the names of a lot of Etruscan deities, among them the Etruscan goddess of beauty, Silene. Now, that has an Italic, probably not a native Etruscan etymology, because lene goes back to an Indo-European root that we also see in, for example, Greek lente, soft, pleasing to the touch, but also the word that becomes the Romance language is lindo, linda, beautiful. And then the C at the beginning is an old Indo-European root. It's kind of an intensifier or perpetuizer, so presumably the name of the goddess is, from some Italic language, it's like ever beautiful, right? Like it in English would be like ever fair, right? And the C prefix is something like English ever. True or false? Here's another one. Tree and endure, borrowed from the root in Latin durus, hard, are from the same root, Indo-European duru. Now, in Germanic languages like English, D's routinely become T's through Grimm's law, so you would expect the result of that to have a T in it. And in a language like Latin, the D does no such thing. It remains a D. So, durus, tree, direct cognates, going back to an Indo-European word either meaning tree or hard. You can see how hard could come out of tree or tree could come out of hard. In fact, another related word from that same bunch is druid from Celtic, right? The clerics associated with trees. True or false? What do you think about that one?
I feel like it's true.
It's not.
Damn it.
I was thinking, and then do I come back and say, and then Lauren is a derivative of the same root.
False.
But then I thought,
You know, it's just.
but then I thought maybe that's too obvious that it's fake,
It's a pretty background.
isn't it? That would have been too obvious, right?
Yeah. Just
Try-
for a little photo.
That I was trying to riz you.
But